Disneytoon Studios, a division of Walt Disney Animation Studios that was active for 28 years and produced many films. And yet, only 9 qualify for this video. Yeah, for this video, I'll only be including the wide theatrical release Disneytoon films. I contemplated doing their direct-to-DVD Disney sequels first, but I found that there were a lot to get through, and some of them were just draining. So, I put it on hold, and decided to do this one instead. I'll get back to watching the direct-to-DVD sequels eventually. #pray for me. But, in terms of what's included in this ranking, I'm not including limited releases like Bambi 2, which I'll cover when I do the aforementioned ranking, or the Tinkerbell movies. Don't ask me when I'll talk about those. It also, obviously, rules out direct-to-DVD films, most of which I'll talk about in the aforementioned sequel ranking video. Again, don't ask me when I'll talk about the rest of them. And so, looking at the ones that qualify, it's a mixed bag overall. Their best films are a 7 out of 10, and the worst are a 2 out of 10. So there is at least something to appreciate in each of these films, even a certain one where I lost interest about 5 minutes in. But, let's rank the theatrical Disneytoon films. A lot of people claim Cars 2 was made purely to sell merchandise. And, while my opinion on Cars 2 has changed since the Pixar ranking, and I do consider it a bad film, it doesn't come off as lazy or uninspired to me, and it is at least interesting. And then there's Planes, which is lazy and uninspired, and also boring, and clearly just a feature-length toy commercial. You can tell even more so because the animation is the only good part of the film. And I suppose the music is decent, even if it sometimes sounds too similar to How to Train Your Dragon. Not only is the film just a blatant copy of Cars, but it's dull as hell. The characters never shut up, and this makes the film especially dull, and made me pray for it to end as early as 5 minutes in. And, judging by how much most of the voice actors phone it in, I imagine they were praying for it to end too. Can't say I blame them. Dusty is a protagonist with a fear of heights. The outcome is exactly what you'd expect. I'm really struggling for things to say. This film lacks the emotional depth of Cars and Cars 3, and the intriguing bizarreness of Cars 2. It's honestly one of the most boring films I've ever seen. Overall, an improvement over Spirit Untamed, because at least the animation is good. Moving on. The original script for The Jungle Book 2 would have been about Baloo saving his love interest from a poacher. I wish that was the script Disney went with, instead of this meandering nostalgia-baiting rehash of the original. There's not a lot to say about the majority of The Jungle Book 2, because most of it is just filler songs, scenes that exist purely to remind you of the original, or treading on the jarring liar reveal trope. Above all, the first film ended perfectly, and there was no need to continue the story. Having Mowgli long for the jungle ruins his arc, and the message of the first film. Accepting change and responsibility, and realizing where you belong. I also think his adoptive father apologizing sends a bad message, given that Mowgli was putting the kids in danger by trying to lead them to the jungle. The animation is a mixed bag for me. I do like the backgrounds, and the designs of the human characters, but the designs of the animals is such a downgrade. And the colour palette is rather inconsistent with the original, which is inexcusable in animation, particularly with Kaa, a character who serves absolutely no purpose here. I do think Shere Khan still presents a genuine threat, and Tony Jay is perfectly cast. Him mauling Lucky the Vulture is genuinely intense, as is him chasing Mowgli and Shanti during the climax, even if it ends before it can properly sink in. Most of the rest of the voice cast are decent. Jim Cummings is obviously perfectly cast as Kaa, given it's the same voice as Winnie the Pooh. And Bob Jones is a decent replacement as Bagheera. John Goodman does bring an energetic performance to Baloo, even if he sounds far too different to Phil Harris. And then there's Haley Joel Osment, who was clearly just cast for star power, sounding nothing like Mowgli in the original film, and sounding rather annoying. A lot of Disney sequels, whether theatrical or direct-to-DVD, are unnecessary. Some are bad, and some are lazy. And The Jungle Book 2 falls into the category of lazy, and fails to bring anything new to the series, or expand on the original in any way. It's not as infuriating as Ralph Breaks the Internet or Mulan 2, but it's worse, on account of lacking any originality, or making me feel anything at all for the most part. Just skip it. Planes, Fire and Rescue is an improvement on Planes, but that's not saying much. It maintains the good animation of the first film. Some of the music goes pretty hard, even if it sometimes sounds too similar to Chicken Run. And the film is less reliant on excessive talking than the first film, utilising some largely silent flying scenes, as well as the montage of Dusty flying off. And I think Dusty abandoning racing to help with firefighting is an interesting development. And that's it for positives. After the first 30 minutes, I lost interest, and I remember very little other than the part where the siren sounded like a fart, which was not funny, and the red cars on the cop show basically being Mia and Tia. I do remember the scene going black during a fire. Everyone died. The end. No, seriously, you don't have to watch the film to check. I'm being 100% serious about this. It's honestly a relief that the Planes franchise ended here, an even bigger relief that this is the last bad film in this ranking. The rest range from mediocre to good. So, let's move on to the next one. Return to Neverland is just as visually appealing as the original Peter Pan, and Smee is still funny, and yet it feels too similar to the original Peter Pan. At certain points it comes off as nostalgia baiting, mainly in the beginning. And Jane's arc regarding her initial disbelief in faith and magic, yeah, you can guess exactly how that will play out. The octopus that butts heads with Hook is pretty much just the crocodile again, and it becomes a lie revealed story in the third act. And there isn't much to say beyond this. A watchable and beautifully animated film, but doesn't bring enough to the series to justify its existence. Moving on. This is the only piece of DuckTales media I've ever seen. If it's a faithful adaptation of the TV series, I don't know if I'm intrigued or not, because as a whole, it's pretty mediocre. The film is kind of boring a lot of the time, with the genie being far less entertaining than in Aladdin. But it's not bad by any means. The animation and voice acting are good, and there's the odd funny moment, including the havoc from the wishes for the baby elephant, and the toys coming to life. Oh, and this line.
He's a genie!
Does his mother know about this?
And it has a somewhat poignant, and somewhat funny ending. As a whole, it's not bad, but I can't see myself revisiting it. But the 5 out of 10 is closer to a 6 than a 4. Piglet's Big Movie is decent. The animation is good, as is the cover of Winnie the Pooh and Ina Kleiner Nap music. The music when Pooh sees the illustration of Pooh Corner, and regrets not calling it Pooh and Piglet Corner, is genuinely sad. And the way the stories all come together at the end is creatively animated, as they draw out their encounters with Piglet, with him as the hero. Oh, and Pooh contemplating honey over his life is comedically believable. And yet, some of the characters feel miswritten. It seems out of character for the others to believe Kangol and Roo were initially a threat. It does reach a heartwarming outcome, but I don't think it's a lesson they needed to learn. I also think Pooh deciding to name the area Pooh Corner, instead of Pooh and Piglet Corner, is kinda douchey, even if he does have a change of heart at the end. And the climax is rather cliched, with Piglet's return being rather abrupt, and the film using the fake-out death with Pooh and Piglet. And it ends with a party, because of course it does. A flawed, but decent film overall, that does have good messages, even if they come at the expense of occasional, mild character assassination. The Tigger movie is also decent. It does have its fair share of good moments, with some funny moments including the opening, Pooh, Piglet and Eeyore mistaking frogs for tigers, and Pooh trying to sing the bees to sleep, even if this goes on a bit too long. I also like Tigger's songs about loneliness and bouncing, and his song about what he believes to be the history of his family is visually creative. And Tigger's friends dressing up as Tiggers when he believes they're coming to see him is wholesome, even if it does take a lie-revealed path. This is where the tropes and predictability start to kick in, with Tigger leaving and the others going out to find him, and a predictable, albeit good, message about family not necessarily being in blood. I also question why everyone got annoyed at Tigger for moving the boulder at the beginning. Yeah, he destroyed Rabbit's rock remover and caused everyone to get muddy, but he still moved the boulder. If the third act was as good as the first two, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. As it is, it's a 6 out of 10, but definitely closer to a 7 than a 5. And here we have the best of the Disneytoon theatrical Pooh films, and even though it's called Pooh's Heffalump movie, it's more of a Roo story than a Pooh story. Yes, I am aware that this is probably for marketing, and Roo is less popular than Tigger or Piglet, but it's still a bit of a misleading title. Hashtag justice for Roo.
Actually, it had a little less poo in it.
Perfectly sums up this film, and perfectly doesn't sum up Taco Bell toilets. I remember seeing the trailer for this on the Incredibles DVD as a kid, and looking back, I feel like it would have worked better to not show the Heffalump in the trailer, thus making the revelation of what they look like a surprise. This said, the friendship between Roo and Lumpy is wholesome, and I like how Lumpy's mum is established, and then comes back into play when Lumpy summons her to save Roo. Though I do find it hard to gloss over how Pooh, Rabbit, Tigger and Piglet were fully intent on choking Lumpy to death. Bit dark, innit? The music goes really hard in this one. The Heffalump song is creative visually, and nice to listen to. The song about Roo is wholesome, and the music as he hops out into the forest is quite good, as well as when Lumpy is despondent over not being able to find his mum. And the closing songs are really good. It's not amazing, nor was I expecting it to be, and it doesn't live up to the Winnie the Pooh movies from the main studio, but it has enough good stuff to warrant a 7 out of 10. This said, I do have to question where Al was the whole film. Even Christopher Robin came back at the end. A Goofy movie is wholesome. It's nothing amazing, nor was I expecting it to be, but most of the film can be summarised as good. I like Goofy and Max's arcs of learning to appreciate each other, with Goofy coming to respect Max's boundaries and accept he's growing up, and Max coming to acknowledge that Goofy just wants to maintain a bond with his son. I also find their song on the river, as well as the ending, quite touching. Speaking of the songs, I like them overall. There's a lot of genuinely funny moments as well. Bigfoot's antics get a genuine laugh out of me. I love the principal's disturbing prediction of Max's future, suggesting he could end up in the electric chair. That's dark as shit and I love it. And yet, the film does go down a liar-revealed path, with Goofy realising Max changed the map. And yeah, the outcome is quite predictable, even if it does lead to the touching song on the river. Speaking of which, I'm convinced Damon and Ian saw this film, and took inspiration for the In-Betweeners. Think about it. A yellow car that looks like a Fiat Cinquecento that ends up in a river? Yep, a Goofy movie may not be amazing, but due to my headcanon that it gave the In-Betweeners some inspiration, I'm glad it exists, purely on account of that. And on a serious note, it's a good film as a whole, and the best wide-release theatrical Disneytoon film.